Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today is day 5 of Dr. Schulze's 5-day bowel detox. And today, I'm going to just be reading some straight facts from the doc himself. I'll be reading from his books, 20 Powerful Steps to a Healthier Life, as well as Detoxification, Volume 2. So what I'm going to be reading from is just some parts of the books. I'm going to be reading about the products, how to use them, how to get started on the program, as well as colon cleansing and the aspect of colon cleansing and how that ties into natural healing and what natural healing does for your body and for your colon and the health of your body, as well as the average American lifestyle and why we need to develop a healthier lifestyle versus the average Americans. So I'm just going to be reading from the books, and that will wrap up the 5-day bowel detox program for this week. And I hope that you guys will enjoy. I hope that you guys enjoyed these videos, and that you guys will actually give this cleanse a shot and try out this detox today. Okay, so 20 powerful steps to a healthier life. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the products. How to do it. Directions for Dr. Schulze's 5-day bowel detox. If you're currently skipping days without having a bowel movement, start with intestinal formula number 1. Don't rush into intestinal formula number 2. Get your bowel working first. If you are constipated and sluggish, rushing into using intestinal formula number 2 could constipate you even further. And don't worry, there are more than enough capsules in intestinal formula number 1 to complete the entire 5-day bowel detox. Start by taking 1 capsule with or just after dinner. It's best to take this formula with food. The next morning, you should have a good, complete bowel movement. If you don't, or don't have one at all, take 2 capsules with or just after dinner that night. Continue to increase the dosage of intestinal formula number 1 by 1 capsule each evening until you can sit on the toilet and have a complete bowel movement. A complete bowel movement can consist of a larger volume than you would normally see in the toilet bowl. Or you could experience 2 or 3 intestinal waves of fecal matter elimination. Don't be too quick to get off the toilet. Your bowel movement may be even loose, even a bit liquid at first. You may also experience a bit of gas or cramping. All of this is normal. When you have 1 or more bowel movements a day for an entire week without skipping, you can begin taking intestinal formula number 2. Follow the directions on this page. You must continue using intestinal formula number 1 at your current dosage and can even increase your dosage by 1 or 2 capsules when you begin intestinal formula number 2. If you're currently having 1 or more bowel movements a day, then you are ready to start using intestinal formula number 2 along with intestinal formula number 1. For intestinal formula number 2, you have 2 options, capsules or powder. If you choose the capsules, you will take 10 capsules 5 times a day for 5 days. With the packets, you will take 1 packet 5 times a day for 5 days. Follow the dosage directions on each product. You must drink 16 ounces of liquid with each dose. This can be pure water, herbal tea, or fresh fruit or vegetable juice. And on average, you will be taking intestinal formula number 2 capsules or powder every 2 to 3 hours. That's important. If you have a hot metabolism, are you prone to having a hot bowel, diarrhea, colitis, bowel inflammation, Crohn's disease, etc., then you're better off with cool detoxifiers such as my intestinal formula number 2. You may never need or be able to tolerate intestinal formula number 2. Use intestinal formula number 2 periodically or for a week or a month at a time. Important. While taking intestinal formula number 2, continue taking 1 or more capsules of the intestinal formula number 1 every evening with or just after dinner. Intestinal formula number 1 does many things for your bowel, but most importantly, it removes the accumulated intestinal formula number 2 from your bowel the next morning. If you find you don't have a bowel movement the morning after taking your intestinal formula number 2, increase your liquid intake and your dosage of intestinal formula number 1 in the evening by 1 capsule. If you have never before cleaned out your bowel or have done my 5-day bowel detox, congratulations. This is a great start to a healthier life. My patients would do this at the beginning of each season 3 or 4 times a year to stay regular and have more energy. An important tip about intestinal formula number 1. If you are like the majority of people and your bowel has not worked well most of your life, remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Even if you have been extremely constipated all your life, do not try to fix yourself overnight. If you overdose and start off taking a dozen capsules of intestinal formula number 1, you may learn the laws of jet propulsion. have a bad experience or a messy one, and then stop doing the program. Don't torture yourself. Be patient and start with 1 capsule and increase by only 1 capsule daily as needed until your bowel is working. Another important tip about intestinal formula number 1, if you've been constipated, especially if you have been for years, your bowel may not work perfectly at first. Just imagine if you had an old car in your garage that you hadn't started in years. The first time you go to start the engine, it will shake, rattle, and roll, and smoke, backfire, make exploding noises, maybe even shoot flames out the carburetor. Then after about 15 minutes, it will start running smoother. Once it is warmed up, your bowel is the same. If it hasn't worked properly in years, you may notice a little gas or slight cramping or even an occasional backfire. Do not be alarmed. This is usually caused by old fecal matter that is being flushed out and will subside usually within a few days. There are many herbs in the formula to reduce the chances of this happening, but if this occurs, keep going and continue to use the formula. All right, everyone, now we will get into Detoxification Volume 2. The average American is following a feverishly paced destruction of their body, mind, and spirit, numbing and killing themselves at every opportunity. The average American is the perfect stooge to corporate America's gigantic junk food industry. The average American is the perfect junkie to America's multi-trillion-dollar drug and medicine business. The average American is drugged, stoned, hypnotized, mesmerized, paralyzed, and addicted to the American way of life. More precisely, to the American way of disease, drugs, and death. So the average patients who walked into my clinic didn't want to change. They resisted it, hated it, and were afraid of it. And only when numerous attempts of medical treatment even failed them, only when they were in such pain that the drugs could no longer squelch it, only when they were told that death was imminent, and only when their fear of disease, pain, and death would become so strong that it would override their fear of change, they would drag themselves begrudgingly into my clinic door. After all, who would voluntarily inflict on themselves the horrifying deprivation and torture that most people think is necessary to heal disease naturally and building lasting health. For the elite of my patients, the professional disease masters who burnt the candle at both ends, lived life in the fast lane, partied hardy, and had committed a continuous barrage of self-inflicted lifestyle beatings and assaults on themselves for 20, 30, or 40 years. At first it seemed sure that my frightening suggestions of fruit juices, raw vegetables, salads, and whole grains instead of cheeseburgers, French fries, and milkshakes would certainly kill them. But very soon they started feeling the power of health, energy, and vitality, which far exceeded their short-lived rush of sugar, caffeine, alcohol, cocaine, and fast food. Soon, they started feeling the rush of nutrient-rich and clean blood circulating to their brain, which far surpassed any chemical-induced rush. Soon, even the most debauched of my patients became as addicted to health as they were to disease, and a whole new wonderful world began to open up for them. Natural healing. True healing that creates powerful and lasting health. By far, most of my patients' biggest shock was the fact that the horrors that they had expected from me and my programs really didn't exist. In fact, the product that I sold most of my clinic was simply common sense. Most of my patients were so shocked at how truly easy it was to change and live a new healthy life. Even the few who had a tougher time giving up the good life soon became so addicted to feeling good and having so much energy that they immediately recognized their old ways as the true poisons that they were. After a few visits, my patients began to see that the real torture was not inside my clinic, but outside my clinic. Because when your body is sick, it is simply because of what you are doing to yourself. You are sick because how you live is killing you. It's that simple. To cover up disease medically and just create the illusion of health takes very concentrated chemical drugs that have debilitating side effects. Often this isn't enough, so people undergo mutilating surgical cutting and burning and all sorts of painful, horrifying, ghastly, and expensive medical torture. But inside my clinic, there was no cutting and burning, no ghastly, horrifying, and horrendous side effects. There was only health and healing. Inside my clinic, my patients' pain was relieved, and their diseases were cured, but not with drugs. Instead, I used my 2 basic fundamentals of healing disease and building health with natural healing. Stop what you are doing that is making you sick. Start what cleans, nourishes, strengthens, and heals your body. I'm smart enough to know that this divine, incredible, and complex body that we are blessed with is far beyond my comprehension and understanding. I wouldn't even try and bullshit anyone that I understand even 10% of what is going on inside of all of us. I certainly wouldn't expect you to believe that I knew enough to go inside you surgically or chemically and heal disease. On the other hand, our bodies have many organs, numerous systems, thousands of chemicals, and billions of cells that are designed to heal us of anything. And they will do this immediately if we just give them the chance, the opportunity. And the way we live our body, give our body a fighting chance to heal itself is simply to create a healthy lifestyle, a healing environment. And our body will take over and do everything else that is needed. How do I do this? How do I know this? Because for the last 30 years, I've instructed my patients and students and other doctors all over the world on how to create this healing lifestyle, how to live life in such a way that your body will heal itself and disease and sickness will literally leap out of your body. What I know is how to live our lives in such a way that our bodies will heal themselves of any and all diseases known to mankind. The results: over 1,000 patients have healed their diseases without medical doctors, drugs, and hospitals, using only natural healing, herbal medicine, and good common sense. He, the patient, is looking to get something for nothing, not knowing that the highest price we ever pay for anything is to have it given to us. Instead of accepting salvation, it is better to deserve it. Instead of buying, begging, or stealing a cure, it is better to stop building disease. Disease is of man's own building, and one worse thing than the stupidity of buying a cure is to remain so ignorant as to believe in cures. Dr. John Tilden. Colon cleansing, training and experience. As you can see from my dedication, I have the best training. If you want to heal yourself of disease and illness and do it naturally, I'm your man. But more importantly, I have experience. While my friends were rocking and rolling to the sounds of the 60s, I spent the second half of my teenage years just trying not to die. Because I inherited a heart deformity from my parents, the top medical doctor said I would be dead by 20. Well, today I'm happy to say that those medical doctors are all dead and that I am very much alive. In my own personal healing journey, I experimented with bowel cleansing far beyond what I have ever seen published by anyone. I knew that in order for my body not to die, but instead to heal itself and build me a new heart, that I needed to be cleaned down to a cellular level. Once I healed myself and went to school to study natural healing and herbal medicine and worked in the clinics of my great teachers, I immediately saw the power of colon cleansing on a much bigger scale. At Bernard Jensen's clinic, I witnessed some of the most unbelievable sizes and shapes of fecal impactions that you could imagine streaming out of the patients. As Dr. Jensen himself would remind me on a daily basis, a dirty bowel was literally the root of all evil, the major cause of almost every disease. Training under Dr. John Ray Christopher, an hour didn't go by when he wasn't exclaiming that to get a patient well, I needed to get to the cause, behind the cause, behind the cause, behind the cause. In other words, he too knew that auto-intoxication from an impacted and malfunctioning intestinal tract was, again, the cause behind most diseases. Years later in my own clinic, I soon discovered that even my teachers' programs were not effective enough. In the heyday of their clinics, medical statistics say that only 10% to 30% of Americans have bowel disease, and fast food was hardly even heard of. But in the prime of my clinical practice, there was now a fast food joint on every one of the four corners of every major city intersection, and the medical books were now saying, in the 1980s, that about 50% of Americans have bowel disease, and by the 1990s that 100% of Americans will have bowel disease as they grow old. Also, the incidence of colorectal disease and colorectal cancer was skyrocketing, killing and infecting hundreds of thousands of Americans. So I had to take my great teacher's natural healing routines and herbal formula and crank the intensity way up. As you'll see in this book, what my great teachers saw at their worst cases of constipation and colon disease were now the commonplace in my clinic. My great teachers would not have been able to imagine the far worse constipation and bowel disease that I would encounter just in the first few years of my clinical practice. I did things a little differently. Now, I have to admit that my programs weren't exactly run-of-the-mill. I'm famous for being a hard-ass with tough programs. See, I figured early on that I had nothing to lose. My patients had already tried medical treatment, and it failed them. Many were sent home to die, so big deal if I screwed up. They were dead anyway. For many of these patients, natural healing and herbal medicine had failed them also. Many told me that herbs and natural stuff doesn't work. At first, I was very angry at the remarks, and then I realized they were right. Because when I looked around me at the current state of natural healing and herbal therapy, it was pathetic, really wimpy at best. At least the medical doctors knew how to deal with your disease with intensity. My God, if you could go to a medical doctor with a malignant cancer, they are going to cut, carve, gouge, rip, and burn this cancer right out of your body. They will carve half of your face off or scoop a big chunk of your brain out if necessary. If you die, heck, the disease is going to kill you anyway. They will burn your ass off with radiation, implant radium seeds in your lungs or ovaries, and inject highly concentrated, extremely toxic, cell-killing chemicals directly into your bloodstream, while my colleagues were lighting candles, singing positive affirmations, and doing biofeedback. What utter wimpy bullshit. The doctors knew that to heal raging killer diseases, you had to sharpen your drills and saws, crank up and concentrate that radiation beam and boil down that chemo a little stronger. Again, while the natural healers were pussyfooting around with aromatherapy. So in my clinic, I pulled out all the stops and cranked up natural healing and herbal medicine all the way. I tried to kill my patients with hot showers and cold showers, drown them with water and juices, and develop intensive programs that would either kill them or cure them. But I couldn't kill any of them. They just got better. The same was true for colon cleansing routines and herbal formula of the era. They were weak. Many were antiques, hundreds of years old. When people got way more exercise and ate lots more unprocessed food, when I used these colon cleansing formula in my clinic, my patients wouldn't even get a good fart, let alone a good bowel movement. So I was forced to turn up the intensity. I created stronger, more powerful bowel cleansing programs and herbal formula far beyond anything that was available, until I started to get the job done, until my patients were getting their bowels cleansed and working again, until my patients were getting well. For some of my patients, I had to move out of the human strength bowel cleansing herbs and research in old veterinary books to find herbs that were stronger, that were actually used to clean bowels of animals 10 times heavier than humans, like horses. It wasn't until I developed formula with this kind of strength that my patients started getting healed. As news spread of my aggressive and powerful colon cleansing, my colleagues and even some of my closest friends told me that I was going too far, that I would hurt people, because the majority of them didn't have clinics and never worked with patients. I guess they didn't realize that a bunch of tough, seasoned, hard-ass, and constipated people Americans are, who are hell-bent on killing themselves with living the good life. Did you ever notice that when we are partying that it's full steam ahead? We have our foot on the gas pedal and we floor it? I've never heard of anyone, ever, that when drinking beer said, "You know, Bob, we have each had a six-pack of beer. Why do you think it's packed in sixes? Do you think we should call the beer manufacturer and see if having a seventh beer is an overdose? Or did you ever hear of anyone that stopped eating after one bag of potato chips, one candy bar, a packet of cookies, or 2 cupcakes because they had already eaten the suggested adult serving? Hell no, we just popped open the 7th beer and the 2nd bag of chips with absolutely no hesitation. But when healing ourselves, doing the best healthy thing that we have ever done for ourselves in years, we immediately take our foot off the gas pedal and slam on the brakes. Why? I've heard every silly and ridiculous question that, can too much organic food hurt you, to can I overdose on echinacea? But no one ever called me up and asked me if too much whiskey or pot was an overdose. I would tell my patients that if they would use half the energy and passion that they had used partying and killing themselves in their new health program, the disease would leap out of their body and they would be well tomorrow. The bottom line, pun intended. So with my 5-day bowel detox, which frightened and scared my colleagues, I saw 80% of my patients have the majority of their symptoms disappear and their sickness and disease retreat and disappear, just by cleansing their colon as I suggested. What terrified other herbalists and natural doctors didn't scare my patients a bit. It just healed them. Today, most people think that the extremely fast pace of modern life makes it inconvenient for them to take an extra 2 minutes out of their busy lives a few times a day to empty their body's waste from the largest organ in their body. Today, the average person's high animal food diet containing 0 fiber, combined with over-processed and refined food that becomes an impacted, immovable, toxic, disease-causing sludge in their colon, makes it impossible for them to have normal bowel movements, even if they make the time. All right, everyone, that is it for the video, and this will conclude Dr. Schulze's 5-day bowel detox on day 5. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and the other videos that followed. And if you are just finding me on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.